The official Yes campaign for the Voice to Parliament has been accused of intentionally misleading voters in a new 15-second video ad. And it's not hard to see why.
This year, Australians have a chance to give Indigenous Australians a real say in their future.
Fair enough.
Visit yes23.com.au. Join us.
We didn't cut that video off early. That's pretty much the whole thing. Really zero reference to the voice, zero reference to the powers the group will have. It only mentions recognition, no biggie there. The ad asks people to vote yes and wholly avoids explaining what they'll be voting for. Joining me now is former New South Wales Labor Treasurer Michael Costa and former Victorian Liberal Party President Michael Kroger. Michael Kroger, I'll start with you. You've been sounding the alarm about the radical nature of the voice. Does this ad give any notion of what kind of change is being proposed?
No, Rita, look, the whole campaign of the Yes people is to basically say, hey, this is very minor. It's just about giving Aboriginal people a voice in what matters affect them, and how could we be opposed to that? That's basically the campaign, without going into any of the detail whatsoever. The less detail, the better, because the more people know about it, the less likely they are to vote for it. So this ad is misleading by not basically telling you what the change is all about.
Michael Costa, do you think this ad is fair enough given how little we know really about the details of the voice? It has been flagged with the Australian Electoral Commission.
Look, as somebody that supports Indigenous recognition, but it probably is going to vote against this proposal because it's too clumsy, I've got to say the ad to me is neither here nor there. You're going to have both sides. One side proposing nirvana, in terms of the voice, and the other side saying doom and gloom with anything to do with Aboriginal recognition. I think the ad sort of is pretty lame, to be frank with you, and I don't think it's going to influence anybody either way. I think the issue for the opponents of the voice is really to make those issues about the clumsy structure, the unworkable structure, in my view, at the moment when you look at it. And I think they're not really doing that by focusing on the ad. I think they've just given attention to the very side that they want to defeat. So I think it's an own goal.
Now, the AFL has officially granted Tasmania a licence to become the league's 19th team. Let's hear from the AFL CEO and the Tasmanian Premier.
And can I thank the AFL, Gillian, and it was a very proud moment for me to be with the Prime Minister Albanese just a few days ago.
I'm proud and excited to announce the awarding of the 19th licence to play in the AFL and AFLW competitions to Tasmania.
Michael Kroger, you love your footy. There's a lot of taxpayer money being devoted to this venture, a new stadium. Is that fair enough, or is this sport rich enough to support itself?
No, Gillian's done very good. Otherwise known as Gil, by the way. Gil McLachlan's done I think, a superb job as head of the AFL, and I think it's appropriate. I mean, it's great for Tasmania. It's great for football. Well done to the AFL, and to those people out there that think that the $240 million might be a payment for the stadium for the AFL in exchange for the AFL clubs coming out and supporting the voice. I'm sure that'll just be a coincidence if it happens, Rita.
Well, the AFL has been putting pressure on all its clubs, and we've already had some come out and pledge their support for the voice, Collingwood amongst them. Michael Costa, $240 million, that's not an inconsequential amount of money. Is it justified here?
Well, look, as somebody that doesn't understand the AFL, coming from a rugby league state, I think any money spent on the AFL is probably a waste of money. But in fairness, when you look at all the money that this government has been spending all over the place, I think this is really small beer in terms of the budget, and probably justifiable. I could think of a million other things that I wish they would cut, and it wouldn't be a sporting stadium. I mean, this stadium's going to last for decades and decades. So in one sense, it's probably a reasonable investment. Whether it has anything to do with The Voice, that's a different issue, of course. And I think it'll backfire if people start associating sport with political issues, as it has in the past.
Yes, I think those sporting clubs should be very careful about engaging in political activism, particularly when it comes to really divisive issues like this, racial issues like this. They're essentially telling big portions of their supporter base that you're not sufficiently progressive. You might even be called racist if you hold a different position to what the club is pushing. I just think it's really dangerous, Michael Kroger. Just lastly, this is going to be the 19th team. That follows that we should have a 20th team. Who's next?
Well, possibly the Northern Territory. Who knows? Who knows?
They've got their own issues. They need more than 240 million to sort through those. Now, the PM confirmed that he hasn't wavered on his preference for an Australian head of state, despite jetting over to London for the coronation. When Piers Morgan asked whether he would pledge allegiance, he gave this rather evasive response.
So what are you going to do in Westminster Abbey when you are urged to say the oath of allegiance to King Charles?
I do that every term.
No, I know, but are you going to say it in the Abbey with the world's cameras watching?
I will do what's entirely appropriate as the representative of Australia.
So you will say the oath?
As I have done 10 times when I get sworn into Parliament.
Yes. But just to be clear, in the Abbey, there's been confusion over whether you will. As the Prime Minister of Australia, in the Abbey, on Saturday, you will say the oath.
As the Prime Minister of Australia, it's expected that I will do that.
Michael Costa, why was he so evasive? Why not just give a clear answer of yes, I will, or no, I won't, and leave it at that? I mean, that went on even longer than we've showed.
Yeah, I know. But look, the problem he has, and it's a problem that I have, to be frank with you, even though I voted against the Republic last time as a Republican because I didn't like that model. You are voting for a constitutional position, and I think I've had to swear allegiance to that position as a Republican, and I quite rightly do it because it is the constitutional head of state. Problem you have, of course, with somebody like Charles is it's hard to separate some of the politics from the constitutional position. You've got to remember this guy's probably makes St Greta look like a moderate on climate change. Some of his views are quite extreme, and there's a lot of people that are sort of confusing the person with the role within the Constitution. I think we all should swear allegiance to him as the King of Australia, which he will be, and that's a constitutionally prescribed position, and it's one we should take some pride in until we change the Constitution. But some of his other views, I wish he'd keep them to himself.
Well, let's hope that happens. Michael Kroger, I'm interested in your take on that interview, and also a question without notice. What is happening in the Victorian Libs? We've now got allegations of bullying, women leaving meetings in tears. I mean, what sort of a mess are the Victorian Libs in? And do they have any hope of becoming an opposition who's going to be a viable alternative government that people can look to at the polls?
Well, I hope so. I think the issue for the state parliamentary party, as it is for the parliamentary parties around the country, including the Feds, Rita, is to find some substantive policies to argue and for people to get behind. I mean, at a federal level, we appear to have one policy at the minute, which is we're opposed to The Voice, and at the state level, policies are still being worked out. So it's very difficult for the party to get new members, to enthuse and inspire members when you don't have some serious policy ideas on the table. And, there comes a point where you simply say, yes, we've got to return to the great principles that have founded the party and been our stalwart for years. Yes, that's great. But what policies arise from those principles? And until such time as you do that, you are going to have the focus on the party, and that's not a good thing.
But the treatment of Moira Deeming, the treatment of Renee Heath, I mean, this is a party we're repeatedly told has an issue with women. And here we have two capable women who are new to the party, new MPs. And really, that doesn't instill confidence in anybody, particularly women who might want to put their hand up to be a candidate. Well,
the issues in relation to Moira have been well traversed. I don't know Maura well. I know Renee Heath very well. I've only read what I've seen in the newspaper. I regard Renee Heath incredibly highly. She's a gifted, highly educated, very intelligent young woman, and I think the party are very lucky to have people like her in the team, and I hope what was said in the papers is not actually what happened, because I think she's a great asset to the Liberal Party and to the Parliament.
And in sad news today, former Liberal Party President Tony Staley has passed away at the age of 83. Michael Kroger, he certainly lived a long and impressive life. What impact did he have on the Liberal Party?
Yeah, a very sad day. He was my first friend and mentor in the party 50 years ago when I joined, so very sad. And in the last couple of weeks, a number of us have been to visit him in hospital. Tony Abbott went to see him, Peter Dutton, Jane Hume, Louise Asher. A lot of his old friends sat with him. Very sad. His impact was profound. Of course, Tony Staley in 1974 resigned as Bill Snedden's Parliamentary Secretary, led the campaign to make Malcolm Fraser leader of the Liberal Party, and Malcolm Fraser, of course, changed history in 75 with the takedown of the Whitlam government. So Staley was also a great federal president. He was a party man. He was a strong, tough man, and he will be very sorely missed. An incredibly popular figure in the party, and a man that made a difference.
Well said. Michael Kroger, Michael Costa, thank you so much for your time this evening.